Hey, I just wanted to add this in. Initial and continuing claims just came out. Watch that continuing claims number. It is climbing up to the highest levels we've seen since the pandemic. So watch that number. Initials are going to move every single week. Last week up, this week down a little compared to expectations. But watch the trend line of continuing. It's sneaking up. But for now, let's get into today's news. Oh man, there's a lot. Hey everyone, good morning, me Kevin here. We've got some more problems to deal with. In this video, I'm going to talk about challenger job cuts, but also I really want to get to the bottom of the Trump problem. Now, this is a Trump card problem that I don't think Trump has really had to face before. This video is not designed to be political in nature. I'm not trying to take a side left or right. I'm trying to provide you insights and perspective on what could potentially go wrong here and what's already going wrong. So that way you can observe, okay, what could those implications mean for me, my portfolio, my wealth, my business, everything going forward. Challenger job cuts, okay? First things first. Highest total job cuts announced since February of 2009 at 172 cuts. That's the highest for the month of February, though. It's not actually the highest for any month, given that we had a pretty high month in July of 2020. With substantially higher or more job cuts within a month. Now, part of this was, of course, because of Doge. In fact, a significant portion was because of Doge, but there was plenty of cutting as well in retail and consumer products. In fact, job cuts for retail and consumer products are up 572% from last year this month. This is in total double the cuts announced last year at this time. Highest year-to-date total since 2009. We're up 33% year-to-date since last year. And, quote, private companies announced plans to shed thousands of jobs last month, particularly in retail, consumer products, retail, and technology. Doge was also responsible for a substantial portion with layoffs and canceled government contracts, the sort of knock-on effects, right? So this is not a great report. It's a report that is slowly moving up and slowly getting worse, but it's a report that we kind of anticipated would come in a little dirty. The problem with it is you're starting to get some of that pain on that retail side, as in business side. Now, why could that be? Well, two potential reasons here. Number one, businesses acknowledging that the optimism that we had before the election isn't turning into sales. At that point, those companies, rather than announcing plans to hire, end up laying off, right? Because they're taking it in the margin due to higher producer costs, and then they have to lay off to try to stay in business. This is very normal. There's a second potential, though, and that's that a lot of businesses are still very optimistic. In fact, this Challenger job cuts report indicated that jobs to be hired was sitting at 40,669. Now that's, a fraction of the 172 that we just cut. But that announced jobs to be hired section is actually sitting up at the highest level since February of 2022. So how do you put those pieces of the puzzle together? Some businesses are suffering and they're laying off. Obviously, Doge is contributing to cuts affecting these numbers. How is it possible that some businesses are still wanting to hire? Well, that's because I believe layoffs don't all come at once. They come like a disease. I like to use COVID as an example because it's just an example of how we're all familiar with how rapidly that can spread. So think back to 2021. Think about the businesses laying off now as being the businesses around the Wuhan flea market and in Seattle because a cruise ship just arrived, or Manhattan, right? Those are sort of the businesses that are like, oh crap. The sales have really taken a hit, time to lay off, obviously making an analogy here. Now, other businesses, like maybe those in Ohio or Texas, like, we don't got that stuff over here. We're still optimistic, we're still hiring, but it's coming. So that's my read of this report. Now, something that could add fuel to the fire of this is people saying no to Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is not used to people saying no to him. That's because he's been a very powerful person his entire life. First, obviously, with a small loan from his dad, the Drumpf Empire. Remember, Donald Trump actually changed his last name from Drumpf, which is D-R-U-M-P-F. I think it was like Dutch or German or something like that, to Trump. Smart move. But anyway, excuse me. So, He's always had a lot of clout. First it was dad's clout, then he built his own clout. I'm not here to shade him for that, I'm just saying. He's always been used to having the cards, right? The Trump card, as Ivanka's book is called. Okay, so it's been easy for Donald Trump to negotiate from a position of power in his businesses. When it comes to the U.S. economy has always been one that could negotiate from a position of power because it's always been the strongest economy in the world by a factor of 2. Well, what happens, and we don't know the answer to this because I think it rarely happens, when everybody else starts saying no to us? Now, this is interesting. Let's go through this. First, Zelensky apologized after being castrated during the Trump Oval Office meeting, saying he was ready to work with Donald Trump and work on that mineral deal. Donald Trump and the Trump administration apparently were looking for a video apology to essentially use it to celebrate victory. However, since then, Zelensky apparently secured substantial funding for missiles and weapons from the European Commission, so a group of European countries, including countries like Finland, the United Kingdom, Greece, Croatia, obviously the non-country, such as NATO, and others. Now, a lot of Trump and supporters of this move say, good, let Ukraine be funded not by American taxpayer money, but instead by the people who are most affected by that security issue, the people of Europe. Great, that's a fair argument, but it does.
And now for a message from our paid sponsor, Fabric by Gerber Life. Life insurance is really important to everybody, in my opinion, should have it because we just don't know what 2025 is going to have in store for us, okay? We've already seen some craziness in aviation, talk about COVID 2.0 in Wuhan. It is so overwhelming and exhausting, and make your life easy. Designed for busy folks like you. And even if you already have coverage, consider extra protection. Extra protection never hurts. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life and is trusted by millions of families and has been for over 50 years. And they give you some bonuses as well, like free digital wills and tools to invest for your kid's future. Something else? There's no risk. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee and you can cancel at any time. So apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/Kevin. That's meetfabric.com/Kevin. MEET fabric.com/Kevin. Hey, and I'm Meet Kevin, so it should be easy to spell. MEET fabric.com/Kevin.
But it does isolate us from those alliances. So it does come with a cost. Every action has an equal or opposite reaction, right? Sometimes even worse, the reactions. Others say, hey, if we don't have those allies potentially in Ukraine or Europe, does that mean our leverage now goes away because they don't need us? Again, many people are like, that's fine. We don't want them anyway. But it's something to keep in mind. So if that turns into a no, okay, that's one no. Big deal. Donald Trump can handle a no. Okay, well, what about this? Claudia Sheinberg, in response to Trump's tariffs on Canada and Mexico just a few days ago here, said there will be no more submission from Mexico. That's her quote. She reiterated that they've done what they can to avoid tariffs. More border support, fentanyl tracking support, intervention support. You've got cartel leaders being deported to the United States as a show of good faith for Mexico doing what they can. Then Mexico's coming from the angle of, okay, we're trying here, and Trump imposes tariffs anyway. Mind you, these tariffs are being imposed anyway on countries that signed the Trump replacement of NAFTA, the USMCA, which Mexico and Canada thought, wait, we thought we were sticking to that deal. Now you want a new deal. Okay, fine, here's a new deal. They agreed to a new deal, and then they get slapped in the face anyway with tariffs. And so now Mexico's saying, we're done. We're not doing anymore. In fact, 80% of the people that we're arresting for fentanyl tracking are U.S. citizens. So maybe this is actually more of your problem than it's our problem. Obviously, people are manufacturing the fentanyl and the force in Mexico. All right, that's Mexico and Ukraine. Now you've got Trudeau of Canada. We won't drop retaliatory tariffs against the United States unless tariffs are completely rolled back. Now remember, Trump suggested, the Trump administration, through Lutnick suggested that, hey, we're going to meet in the middle. We'll come up with some negotiated solution. This is all just Trump posturing and negotiating. All right, maybe it is. But Trudeau says, we're done. We're not backing down from a fight. We're not meeting you in the middle unless you roll back all of the tariffs, we will have our own retaliatory tariffs. To which, of course, Trump says, fine, we'll have more retaliatory tariffs. This is what a trade war is. Again, Trudeau says we're not backing down. Okay, so now this is very interesting, because you've got Justin Trudeau saying Trump is working to appease Vladimir Putin, and he's stabbing his friends in the back. This, obviously, we've already talked about this before, so I just want to quickly mention it to make sure I don't get comments of people, thinking that I'm not mentioning it, because, sometimes people don't watch every video. That's okay. It hurts my soul a little bit, but that's okay. Consumers in Canada and Mexico have already, to some extent, started to boycott American products because of this. We acknowledge this. But that's just one issue. The other issue is what happens if this continues and we can keep believing that we have the position of power given the strength of our economy, but in the meantime, our economy starts deteriorating. See, that's when all of our previous allies in Europe, Ukraine, Mexico, Canada, essentially have this unofficial alliance or unofficial group of, hey, if we all pressure the US together, we can actually make a dent. Now, Sarah Eisen reposted on X a very traditional comment. I was a little surprised she did, but she quote tweeted how much American trade makes up the Mexican and Canadian economy. And she quote tweeted and said, they do not have the cards. Now, obviously, that's a quote of Trump in the Zelensky meeting applied to Canada and Mexico. I was surprised because to me it seemed like somebody who was typically very neutral, Sarah Eisen, has kind of gone all in on one side here. Now, I'm not saying there's a problem with that. Again, this isn't a political video. I was just surprised to see Sarah Eisen say that. But it created an opportunity for me to look at this and say, okay, well, wait a minute. Yes, individually, our cards are better than any of those single countries or single problems. But what about all those problems together? What if everybody at the table in a game of Settlers of Catan is trading with each other with the one goal of ruining you and forcing you to bend? Not that that's ever happened before. There's a chance you could still win. But it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to cause more damage. And all of this is fine. Like, the U.S. could embark in this trade war if we had a strong economy, an underlyingly strong economy. My belief is that we don't. And that this market disease, if you will, call it the COVID of the market, is slowly spreading. And what happens as it slowly spreads is it increases the risks that we actually do end up falling into a recession. Now, that'll be deflationary. Prices will come down, and not only will it be deflationary, but we'll have lower rates, so we'll be accomplishing a lot of the things that Donald Trump is looking for. Now, other countries could go into a worse recession, but does that matter? Like, if you lose your job, does it matter to you that two people in Canada lost their jobs? Because even, Premier Ford suggests, hey, Canadians are going to lose jobs because of this. Does it matter to you? I mean, from a political point of view, we might look and say, aha, we got them. They're losing more jobs than us. Their economy is suffering more than us. Okay. What does that do when your children's 529 plan is now worth half as much as it was before because of an S&P, a coordinated S&P 500 sell-off? What does that do for your retirement? What does that do for your business? What does that do for your ability to hire, your ability to make investments, your ability to grow as an American? Well, it's not good. So I'm of the mindset that this trade war fiasco is not good to start with. But it's even worse if everybody coordinates against us to say no. Now, I don't know. Maybe this is a big nothing burger and it'll all blow over. But I think our economy is way too sensitive. Now, we'll see. Yesterday we had a little bit better data, such as the ISM data that finally, At least these reports were less bad. But one of the reasons they were less bad was because, once again, we're talking about this enthusiasm of a pull forward of manufacturing demand and ordering demand because of tariff uncertainty. Every single comment in there had to do with tariff uncertainty. Now, again, can all of this tariff uncertainty go away? And could all of these problems be solved? And was this all a major buying opportunity? Yes. I want to be crystal clear about that. If all the tariff negotiations go away and we end up in a position where we finally start seeing a path to tax cuts, which would be stimulative, great. Maybe then we could get out of this.